Welcome back to All About Winning Daily Fantasy Sports. My name is Ty Patton. In this video, I will break down the numbers and what they tell us for the running back position in Week 5 of the NFL. Just a reminder, I build lineups primarily for the main slate, which means I don't include the primetime games Thursday night, Sunday night, or Monday night. When I break down the running back position, I consider many factors. I look at the game totals and the favorites. I'm looking for the games that have the higher totals because if these games are going to be high scoring, they're going to have the players necessary to do the scoring. That's not where I stop. That's just where I start. I do look at all the games and all the matchups, but that's just a place that I like to start before I even look at any players or any salary. I like to look at the Vegas totals. With the running back, touches are vitally important. There's a distinct correlation between touches and fantasy points expected, which I will break down in this video. I look at the matchups. I consider game script. I'm searching for value. Did I say touches? Seriously. And before we dive into this week's numbers and what they reveal, let's take a quick look back at week number 4. I do want to mention that the running back position, in my opinion, is more consistent with projections week in and week out in comparison to other positions. In week 4, the top 5 scoring running backs were all on a winning team. In comparison, the top 5 quarterbacks, all but one of them were on a losing team. In week 4, the top 5 projected running backs were McCaffrey, Eckler, Mack, Cook, and Henry. The actual top 5 scoring running backs were Chubb from Cleveland, who scored 42.30 points, McCaffrey from Carolina, 33.90 points, Fournette from Jacksonville, 29.50 points, Eckler from the Chargers with 29.20 points, and Gallman from the Giants, 28.80 points. Now let's look at the number of touches those top 5 running backs received in week 4. Chubb had 23 touches, 20 carries, and 3 receptions. McCaffrey had 37 touches, 27 carries, and 10 receptions. Fournette had 31, 29 carries, and 2 receptions. Eckler had 23, 18 carries, and 5 receptions. And Gallman had 24, 18 carries, and 6 receptions. Now, breaking this down further, the top 5 last week averaged 27.6 touches, and the average score was 32.74 points. This equals out to 1.19 points per touch. That's why when I build lineups, I really like to put a running back in the flex position. That gives me 3 running backs. And in this scenario, and I'm looking for 65 or more touches. So in this scenario, at 1.19 points per touch, average 65 or 70 touches, that shows why I like to put a running back in that position, and the fact that I feel that running backs are more consistent. And if you get the running backs that are getting a lot of the touches and the red zone touches, you can get a lot of points and value out of that. Now let's take a look at the numbers through the first 4 weeks of the NFL. The top running backs for touches are McCaffrey leads the way with 111 touches. He has 86 rushes and 25 receptions, which comes to 27.75 touches per game. Fournette has 88 touches, 72 rushes, and 16 receptions for 22 touches a game. Dalvin Cook from Minnesota has 86 touches, 71 rushes, and 15 receptions, 21.5 touches per game. Ezekiel Elliott has 84 touches, 73 rushes, and 13 receptions for 21 touches per game. Derrick Henry, 83 touches, 78 rushes, and 5 receptions for 20.75 touches per game. Eckler has 80 total touches, 56 rushes, 24 receptions for 20 touches a game. And Kamara has 79, which is 59 rushes and 20 receptions for just under 20 touches a game at 19.75 touches per game. In all, the total touches between those seven is 611 touches for a total of 597.30 points. These top seven running backs average 21.82 touches per game. As I mentioned, that's 611 total. They have scored 597.30 points total. Now, if you break this down and divide the points by touches, it comes out to 0.98 points per touch. This is with all things relevant: touchdowns, yards gained, fumbles. All of those things are relevant and factored in that. So, getting the running back right by identifying those running backs that are going to get a high number of touches is really important when you're building your lineups. So identifying the running backs by focusing on touches is only part of the formula. Now let's take a look at the matchups and focusing on the defenses that are giving up the most and the defenses that aren't giving up a lot of points to the running back position. The number 32 worst team against the running back is the Cincinnati Bengals, who give up 39.7 points per game to the running back. This week they're going to face David Johnson from Arizona. Green Bay is the 30th ranked team against the rush. They're giving up 35.6 points per game. This week, they get Ezekiel Elliott. Denver is ranked number 28. They're giving up 28.7 points per game. This week, they face Eckler and Gordon. Baltimore is number 27, surprisingly. They're giving up 28.6 points per game to the running back. This week, they face Connor. Pittsburgh's number 26. They're giving up 28.5 points per game, just underneath Baltimore. And they play each other this week. And this week, Pittsburgh is going to go against Ingram from Baltimore. Houston's given up as the 23rd ranked team against the running back. They're giving up 26.3 points per game. This week they face Devontae Freeman from Atlanta. And the Jets are number 22. They're giving up 25.8 points per game. This week they're going to face Sanders and Howard from Philadelphia. Now next I'm going to give you the teams that are the best against the running back position. Number one team versus the run right now is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They only give up 15 points per game to the running back. This week they face Alvin Kamara. New England's number two. They give up 15.7 points per game. This week, they're going to go against Washington's running back tandem of Thompson and Peterson. Jacksonville is number three. They give up 18.8 points per game to the running back. This week, they face McCaffrey. That'll be a really interesting matchup. You have a running back who's leading the league in touches and points scored against the number three ranked team giving up points to the running back. Something's going to give. Number four is New Orleans. They're giving up 18.9 points per game. This week they face Tampa Bay, Barber, and Jones. That's interesting, too. Tampa Bay is number one. New Orleans is number four. They play each other this week. Is this a game that's going to have a lot of passes? I tend to lean that way, and the game total is actually 47. So that might be a game to target as far as quarterbacks and wide receivers. And number five, Philadelphia is giving up 19.8 points per game. This week they'll face the New York Jets and Le'Veon Bell. I also consider the running backs who are getting a lot of the goal line carries. Touchdowns are very difficult to project, but these numbers give indications that if the teams are down close to the goal line, they like to give the ball to certain people. And these are the top five running backs by touches inside the 5-yard line. Buffalo is Frank Gore. He has 8 carries inside the 10. 6 of those carries have been inside the 5-yard line. Los Angeles Chargers, Eckler. He has 7 carries inside the 10. 5 of those are inside the 5. Baltimore's Mark Ingram has 10 carries inside the 10. 5 of those have been inside the 5-yard line. Denver's Philip Lindsay has 7 carries inside the 10. 5 of those have been inside the 5. Philadelphia's Howard has 6 carries inside the 10. 4 of those have been inside the 5. And New England's Sonny Michel has 11 carries inside the 10, and 4 of those have been inside the 5-yard line. Okay, I just put a lot on you, and hopefully you have sorted all this out. But just in case you haven't, I'm going to break this down and summarize the running backs that I'm going to target and why. And remember, I as I mentioned earlier, I do like to use a running back in the flex position if I can, based on the consistency of the running back and focusing on getting a trio of running backs that get a lot of touches. Number 1, Arizona's David Johnson. Cincinnati's allowing the most points per game to the running back position. To me, Johnson's a no-brainer. Cincinnati's allowing 39.7 points per game to the running back. The game script, and he's a good, nice pivot off of McCaffrey, Elliott, and Cook. And we'll look at ownership on Saturday and see. I mean, he's 7,500, and you have, like I mentioned, Elliott, Cook, and Kamara and McCaffrey are all. McCaffrey's $1,200 more. Dallas is Ezekiel Elliott. He's $8,300. He's getting 21 touches per game. Green Bay is number 30, and they're allowing 35.6 points per game to the running back. It's a slight pivot off of McCaffrey. It has a high game total. They're a home favorite. Maybe some recency bias where people seen the New Orleans game and his ownership may not be that high. So Ezekiel Elliott will definitely be in the player pool this week. 8,700, McCaffrey. I feel like you have to put McCaffrey in there every week based on his volume of carries. I mean, he leads the NFL in touches per game at 27.75 touches per game. Huge portion of his team's offense. He scores 29.5 fantasy points per game. I am concerned this week with the matchup against Jacksonville. Jacksonville has a number 3 ranked defense against the run. And McCaffrey did have, I believe it was against the Rams, or it was actually against Tampa Bay that he had some problems. And I want to just quickly look at that. At Tampa Bay, he had 16 carries and 2 receptions. His lowest point total of the year, he scored 7.3 fantasy points. And that just tells you what he's done in his other 3 games. He's averaging 29.5 fantasy points per game, and that's factoring in one game where he only scored 7.3 points. He just has such a high volume that you always have to consider him. He's 8,700 if I can find some value, but he's the type of player that can break a slate. Last week, Chubb and Godwin, if you didn't have one of those 2 players, you probably weren't going to place too high in any contest. And the eventual winner of the Millie Maker actually had both those players. Next, I'm going to take, I like Fournette from Jacksonville. He's $6,400. He's getting 22 touches per game, which is second. The game script is definitely in his favor. They like to run the ball and play defense. He's getting a lot of the carries. They don't want to put a lot on Minshew, the rookie quarterback. He's a nice value at $6,400 with the amount of touches he's getting. I mean, if you broke down his average touches by his salary, you would see, the value. And he might go fairly under-owned because of people focusing on the other big names and bigger matchups. Now, the the game total in that game is actually really low, 41. So his ownership is going to be really interesting. And if it's low, I could see fitting him into a lineup at that price to free up some salary to spend up in other areas, and to get 22 touches a game. Um, you know, you can definitely get some points out of him. Dalvin Cook, $8,400 from Minnesota. He's one of my favorites. He's getting 21.5 touches per game. He's a nice pivot off of McCaffrey, just a slight savings. Going against the New York Giants, coming off a loss. This is another running back that could have some recency bias where people might stay away, and his ownership might go down because of his game last week against the Bears was definitely not productive. So I like him. His price, I'm not sure if I'll be able to get up to him, but he's definitely going to be in the player pool. Baltimore's Mark Ingram. Pittsburgh's giving up 28.5 points per game. Now, the recency bias on this might be a lot of people watch the Monday night game. It's the only show in town on Monday night. And Pittsburgh just pretty much destroyed Cincinnati, shut down their running game, passing game. And so some people may be afraid to go against or to take Ingram, and this could drive down his ownership. And we'll look at that on Saturday. But I definitely like Ingram. The game script, the value, he's $6,300. He's getting the goal line carries, and I'm definitely going to have him in the player pool. In comparison to that, right underneath Ingram, I have Pittsburgh's Connor. Baltimore's giving up 28.6 points per game to the running back. Pittsburgh is at home. Nice value at $6,200. If the one thing that concerns me is Connor does have a questionable tag, and I looked at this earlier. He didn't practice today. Connor hurt his ankle this past Monday against the Bengals and was mentioned Wednesday by Coach Mike Tomlin as one of the Steelers who may be limited some this week, whose practice participation and the quality of it will be our guide in terms of the game ability. If Connor is less than 100% or ruled out for Sunday's game against the Ravens, added work would be available for Jalen Samuels as well as Benny Snell to a lesser degree. This is really important to watch. If for any reason Connor doesn't play or he's going to be limited, Samuels would be a huge value. He had a really good game against Cincinnati, and he is $4,100. Of course, he'll probably be highly owned. I mean, this is not like a secret, but in the Cincinnati game, he actually scored. He scored 23.54 fantasy points. He had 10 rushes for 26 yards and a touchdown. He caught 8 out of 8 targets for another 57 yards. And as I mentioned, he scored 23.54 points. So that'll be really interesting to watch. And as long as his ownership doesn't go through the ceiling. Connor banged up his ankle, but he did come back in the game. So just keep an eye on that, and we'll address that on Saturday as well. As we move forward, we'll be able to have a better idea on the injuries. And always, 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 when you're doing your lineups, check that injury report on Sunday. It comes out at 11:30 before the games. NFL teams have to disclose their injury report no later than 90 minutes before kickoff. So make sure you check that. And that is pretty sure that's a 1 o'clock game. But yeah, we'll address this again on Saturday. Here, I can look up here. Sorry about that. They are a 1 o'clock game. Okay, I try to avoid the running back committees. For instance, Philadelphia, they have a really good matchup this week, but they are using Sanders and Howard. Howard had a really good game last game, but is that a guarantee that he's going to get all the carries? And if I'm interested in running backs that are getting a lot of touches, I don't really want to put myself in the position of choosing a running back that's only going to get half the touches compared to someone that's getting all the touches. Another team in this exact same situation is Eckler and Gordon. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. This week they played Denver. Denver does give up a lot of points to the running back position, as I mentioned a few minutes ago. So I'll be staying away from that because like I said, I'm looking for the running backs with touches, and I'm going to keep repeating that. It's really important because of the consistency and the points that are generated from touches. So summing it up, the running backs I will be using in my lineups are Johnson from Arizona, Ezekiel Elliott, Christian McCaffrey, Fournette, Cook, Ingram, and Connor. And I always reserve the right to add or subtract. You can add or subtract whoever you want in your lineup. This is just the way that I do it. But on Saturday, when I build lineups, if I am subtracting someone or adding someone, I'll tell you who it is and why I'm doing it. Remember, touches are the big indicator, and they correlate with fantasy points expected. Can you get 65 or more touches out of the three running backs if you use the running back in the flex position? If you're not going to use three, you just cut a third of that off. Let's just say, can you get 46 touches between two running backs? But you definitely want to get a high volume of touches. Factor in game script. Like last week, the top 5 running backs were all from a winning team. Is that these teams have gotten a lead and they don't have to throw the ball, so the game script allows them to control the game with their running game. And when they don't have a running back committee, their main running backs getting all the touches and the yards and touchdowns and everything that's relevant. I hope this video provided some valuable information, and I'd appreciate it if you would hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you get notified when my next video is posted. Tomorrow I will be posting the wide receiver video, and I'll be adding the Thursday night football showdown at the end of it. And as I mentioned, and if you feel like dropping some comments, drop some comments below. I try to answer all the comments, and I appreciate the encouragement from some of you guys. I want to keep this going. I hope that it grows, and then I've actually add a show on Sundays to where I can have some discussion before game time. As we move through the season, you also have to factor in things such as weather and injuries, and all those things are really important. And again, please feel free to drop any comments that you may have. I'll be back tomorrow, as I mentioned, with the wide receiver and Thursday night football showdown. This is all about winning daily fantasy sports. My name is Ty Patton, and I'll see you real soon.